Welcome to Navigating Life After 40, the podcast that's all about helping women navigate this exciting and sometimes challenging phase of life. I'm your host, Roni Jai, and I'll be here sharing some of my own personal experiences, chatting with experts and a few friends, and also providing some practical advice and support to help you live your best life after 40. Let's get started. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Navigating Life After 40. I am your host, Roni Jai, and I am here with a special guest, Kavita Sahai. How are you doing today?
Good, Roni. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. All right, you guys, I'm going to give you a little bit of background about Kavita, and then we are going to hop into a discussion because I am curious to learn more about her work that she's doing and how this really helps women in midlife. So let me give you a little bit of background. She is the founder of Vibes Tribe, which is a wellness initiative focused on helping individuals harness the power of breathwork, mindfulness, and holistic healing, which we all need, of course, as we're going through this time. After leaving a successful career in finance, she turned to plant-based medicine and breathwork to heal from personal health struggles. Amazing. I really can't wait to hear about that. Now she empowers women, especially those navigating midlife, to reconnect with themselves, manage stress, and find purpose. Through her work, she supports women dealing with menopause, mental health challenges, and overall wellness by providing tools for self-care and emotional resilience. That's amazing. So I'm looking forward to this conversation. As someone who has a little bit of knowledge about the power of breath work, I never equated it to how we navigate this time in midlife. And so I just can't wait to dive into this conversation. So for those who may not be familiar with breath work, can you share a little bit more about that? And then also your mission behind your brand, Vibes Tribe.
Yeah, absolutely. What's really amazing about breath work for, someone who's never really utilized it, if you think about it, we don't think about how we breathe, but when we do it intentionally, we can really regulate our nervous system, which makes a lot of sense if you've ever had a baby and you've gone through labor. You know that a lot of it comes down to breathing. And so through that, we can regulate our nervous system, calm any fight or flight, as well as really the biggest thing is regulate stress. And going through midlife and going through any stressful period, that is what triggers most all chronic disease, as well as most of the symptoms that people end up feeling, where they can't sleep at night, they're anxious. So all of that really stems from a root cause of feeling stressed. And breath can really help with that.
Nice. Okay. Now I'm excited now. But before we dive further into this conversation, your background was in finance originally. And so what led you to pivot over to wellness and breath work that you're doing now?
Yeah. So I pivoted because I had this moment where I had Post-it notes everywhere because I had such incredible brain fog. So it was like, pick up your kid, don't forget lunch, Yeah. And at this point, I was not, I wasn't in midlife. I was young, right? And I just felt like there was clearly something wrong with me. Like I wasn't meant to feel like this overwhelm, this brain fog, lack of clarity. And when I went to the doctors, they were like, you're fine. Your blood work looks great. Everything looks great. And I'm like, well, it can't be great because I feel horrible. And so through some conversations, somebody connected me with a botanist, and the botanist introduced me into aromatherapy. And I was a little skeptical because I'd never tried any sort of natural modality in the past. Being Indian, I had grown up seeing a lot of meditation and yoga and that sort of thing, but I had personally never developed any sort of practice. So she gave me the oils. I felt better, I want to say within a couple months. And my son, who was in and out of the hospital, felt better, was off prescription meds in 6 months. He had a reactive airway. So I was like, okay, I'm sold. There is this alternate universe of modalities that I know nothing about that felt at the time life-changing. So I quit finance. I actually went in, helped her grow her business and, ultimately sell it to private equity as well. So sort of in a finance role. But during that time, I got certified in aromatherapy, yoga, meditation, Ayurveda, nutrition. I just went all in and was like, really, the secret to a good life is a healthy, vibrant life. And as a society, we began to normalize being stressed, being anxious, being depressed, not sleeping. It's like, it just became so normal. And we're like, well, that's okay. It just must be a sign of age, or because I'm a mom, or because I'm working. Like, no, every day you should feel great. That's normal.
Yeah. I like that because you're right. As a society, we do. I was just having this conversation with a couple of friends not very long ago, and we were talking about how we normalize just being busy and being stressed out. And it shouldn't be that way. We should also normalize taking a break instead of pushing through. And especially as women of color, we're always pushing through, and we don't know how to just sometimes take a pause and allow ourselves to just kind of sit and relax. And it's okay to do nothing. For some of us, I even think about my mom. She's someone that when I call and I check on her, I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, oh, I'm moving around doing this. And I'm telling her, sit down, just take a day. You don't have to do it all right now. You can spread it out. You have 7 days in the week. Why do you have to do it all today? She doesn't know how to sit still. And so I always try to get her to take a moment and sit still. And so I probably need to introduce her to this breath work that we're going to be talking about today. Was there a specific moment just on your personal journey that made you realize that breath work was this powerful tool for healing? And how did that just kind of shift your focus into the work that you're doing today?
Yeah. So it was during a yoga class that I started getting introduced to it. And then I ended up meeting this woman, Dannon, who specializes in breathwork. She's actually the leading practitioner on the Vibes Tribe platform. So we have a lot of different experts, many of whom I've met through this journey, who created courses to kind of lead you through. And so through her course, I sort of started to realize that it didn't take long, because that was my whole thing, especially in the beginning. Like, I'm too busy.
Yeah.
To sit. I don't have an hour for yoga. I don't have 30 minutes or 20 minutes for meditation, which I realize if that's true, you need 2 hours. But as I started to do it, I felt tension in my body release. Like I could physically feel where I was holding stress in my body. And through the breath work, I could feel just a little bit start to like ease away. And in the beginning, it's just that I felt it. Like I didn't even know that that was tension that was there. It was just pain. Right? I had pain in my shoulders and neck. I had pain in my back. And I was like, oh, it's just pain. But through the breath work, I started to feel like, no, this isn't pain. This is tension. And then as I did it more, I could feel that it was releasing. And it was just this really, really powerful feeling. And so I started to do it more and learn different techniques for different times and different feelings. And it really is a very, very powerful way to move energy through your body.
Yeah, I like that. I'm sitting over here thinking like, how can I not start incorporating this? So as we get further into this discussion, I will probably have all type of visualizations of myself practicing this exercise, because when I was working out this morning, I noticed that I'm still dealing with a lot of tension, and a lot of times we immediately run to the chiropractors and things, and that's okay to do. But what are some stuff that we can do at home that's free? What can we practice now that's free that can help relieve some of this tension that we're going through, especially during this time? Everybody's so high stress with everything that's going on in the world. And so we really need to practice something to kind of help decompress from all of the stress and the anxiety and all of the stuff that we're seeing out here in the news. Before we move into breath work, were there any challenges that you faced just shifting from, your career in finance over to the work that you're doing now?
I mean, there were a lot of challenges, especially financially. I went from a high paying job to not a high paying job. So there was that shift. I think along with that is a ego and self-identity shift, right? Who am I? Am I, at the time it felt very like woo woo, right? So I was talking about it. And so I think there was a lot of transition, which I think whenever something beautiful happens, you have that period. I always tell people it's that caterpillar period. And that was my cocoon, right? I was just sort of like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just going to go with it. And in the end, I'm so glad I did, as people generally are, right? You go through these different transitions and usually you come out a stronger, more vibrant person. And I honestly feel way better now than I ever did, in my 20s and 30s when I was working like that. So I do think that, you can feel amazing, at any age, at every age, but it's not something that that we're taught how to do, right? It's like you have a headache, you pop a pill. You have we haven't tuned into our intuition to like, what's the root cause? What's going on with us? And really the goal, I would think, for every single person is I want to wake up every day feeling amazing.
Right.
And so to do that, you just have to invest a little bit in self-care. And that was really the thought behind Vibes Tribe is how can I make that easy for people to explore? Because like I love breath work, but maybe for you it's meditation, and maybe for somebody else it's, an Ayurvedic lifestyle. And so it's just that way we curated all these different experts to create really easy, simple tools based on these different modalities that everyone can kind of experiment with in their own life.
I like that. And the reason that I always ask women that question who come on the show is because I want people to really understand, especially women in midlife, that what someone else's journey is like, and that it's okay to transition and follow something that you're truly passionate about. And it's going to be some challenges along the way, like you mentioned, going from a high income to a low income, because we're often pushing towards that higher income and we need that to live and to survive. But are you truly doing what sets you on fire? And I love hearing the stories of women and just how they went from one area in their career and they just said, you know what, I'm gonna do this shift. I'm gonna transition over here and I'm gonna follow my passion and do something I love. So I always like to ask women that question because I'm always curious and to know what took you from here to here, and were there any challenges and how you overcame those. So thank you for sharing that with us. All right, so breath work, this is the fun part. This is the part I cannot wait to talk about. So we know that a lot of women in midlife, they get to this phase and they start to feel stuck and also disconnected. Some of them are really trying to figure out what's next for them, or they're struggling with thoughts of, am I dealing with a midlife crisis, or what I like to call it could be a midlife awakening. How does breath work help with clarity and self-discovery during this phase of life?
So I think one of the things is you can never have clarity, again, if you're in a state of stress or overwhelm or anxious, which we know from science that women, as they get into midlife and hit like perimenopause and menopause, it's a natural reaction in our brain. Like we are naturally more anxious. And so having that knowledge now, you can start to practice. Again, it's the relaxation. And so there's some really easy ones, like even just square breathing every day. And it's important to practice the tools so you have them when you need them, because if you only use them when you need them, for example, all of a sudden you're very anxious and then you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to remember this breath work that I've never done before.
Yeah.
That's not going to do it, right? But if every morning or every time, in your car, or depending what modality, you choose of breath work you decide to go through, if you're constantly doing it every day, then when you need it, that tool is just immediately available to you.
Nice. I love that. What does a simple breathwork technique look like for the listeners who may be curious to know, what is she talking about? What can I do? What does that look like? Just a simple technique that we can use.
So one of my favorite ones is you sort of trace your palm. And so you just inhale when you're going up, hold, exhale going down, and then inhale, and then exhale. And so that kind of involves a little bit of touch and breath. And so I always find that really calming, and you always sort of have your hand accessible. The other one I like that's visual is just square breathing. And so you pick a count that your breath allows for, and, eventually that count will expand. But, you just like inhale for 5, hold for 5, exhale for 5, and then inhale. And I always imagine, like sometimes I'll even draw it with my, hand. I'll be like, inhale, hold, exhale, hold, right?
Like that.
And it just sort of helps. Again, I think we need to focus on it sometimes more than one thing at a time. But once you practice it more and more, and maybe you don't need your the visuals or the touch of your hand or anything, and then it's just becomes breath that you're being very consciously taking in and out. So I love that. I've also practiced Wim Hof. I love that kind of breath work as well.
I'm familiar with box breathing. and the 4-4-4, inhale for 4, hold for 4. And so I'm sitting here in my mind thinking like, I need to tap myself on the hand because I know about box breathing. I don't practice it. And you're right. You mentioned something earlier when you said, we wait till we get in this situation and then we want to practice, the tools that we were taught. And I noticed that about myself. If I got anxious, because I really didn't start dealing with anxiety until I got in my 40s. And when I'm really anxious, then I want to practice the box breathing. I want to go to my toolbox and pull out everything. And as you were talking, it's like, okay, why don't you take maybe a couple minutes a day and just try this, and it doesn't have to be just something that, I got to pause the TV and do this. You can do it anywhere.
Right.
And I'm just kind of, I guess, a little disappointed in myself because I don't practice it like I should, but I will get better and I plan to do that. So I'm going to make a note to practice my box breathing so that I can, so that it will be familiar to me and it's not something that I'm rushing to find when the time comes and I need something. So thank you for sharing that technique with us. And I do have a question about the one technique with the hands. Is there a certain amount of time that you're supposed to hold it, or are you just tracing it?
You're just tracing it.
Just tracing it.
So in that case, it's really much of a hold. It's just, and you can set the speed. Like you can decide, do I want it to be a slower inhale and exhale, or do I want it to be, but there, in that case, there's no hold.
I'm learning something new. Listen.
So I'll give you another little tip about when to practice it during the day.
Okay.
So all cultures around the world have a tradition of praying before they eat, or even sometimes drink water. And the reason is because, again, it drops you into parasympathetic. So it calms your nervous system. It makes you more ready to digest and absorb and the food you're going to eat. So I always say do that technique, whichever one you want, before you eat or drink anything throughout the day. One, it'll prepare your body. And then, so that's like, it's like a double benefit. And then you're also practicing it throughout the day.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to try that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to try it today. So I might send you an email and tell you how it's working for me once I get into the routine of it. How does breath work support with just emotional resilience? I know we touched a little bit on stress management earlier, but how does it support, especially during menopause? Because most of my listeners, they are going through perimenopause and menopause, and this is something that stress is really high. Emotions are really high. We are dealing with irritability, anxiousness. We're dealing with so much stuff. So how does the breath work help support women navigating menopause and perimenopause? Let's take a moment to thank our partner, Black Girl Vitamins. They provide wellness products specifically designed for women of color, including their amazing menopause support vitamins. One of my favorites, MenoChill, is specifically designed to support menopause and perimenopause symptoms. Visit www.blackgirlvitamins.com and use my code NAVIGATE to save 20% off your first purchase.
Yeah, well, first of all, I feel you because I am navigating for enough. So sympathize, understand.
Yes, it's tough. It is tough.
But again, it really comes down. It's really simple, and I know we want to complicate it. And I think there's many things. I'm not saying breathwork is the only tool that someone employed to truly live a vibrant life. I really think it's multifactorial. Like there's nutrition and movement. Sleep is probably another really, really big one. But the reason that breathwork really, to me, helps is, again, it visually clears out. So as you're breathing in and out, you're clearing and relaxing your system. I think of it like if you're a soda can and you're a full soda can and someone shakes it, you're going to spray. Yeah. But breathwork kind of starts to decrease the amount of soda in your can, if you will. And so that when someone shakes it, as life does, right? Inevitably, you get caught in traffic. There's a terrible driver, or your husband says the wrong thing, or your kid doesn't call you back, or one of the many things that happen in life. But if you use the breath work to sort of calm your body, it doesn't shake you in the same way.
So it's almost like anything that comes along, you're going to stay calm in that situation because you've already been practicing this tool on a consistent basis. That makes sense. I always thought that my calmness just had a lot to do with my background. And I remember having this part-time job once, and there was a situation going on it was at a mall, and there was a situation going on. And this customer asked me, she said, "How are you so calm during all of this?" And I said, "I don't know." I said, "I guess because this is what my full-time job." At the time I was doing therapy, and I said, "My full-time job is a mental health therapist." And so she's like, "Okay, maybe that's it." So I always attributed it to that. So when big, things come, I'm not really shaky. But I do notice that there are other moments again when that anxiety comes up that I feel like, just based off what we're talking about today, this can be a really powerful tool to just have in my toolbox so that I can use every day. And when those moments come, I'm not all antsy and all over the place. So, yeah.
Yeah, no,
Thank you for
and then the
sharing
good
that.
thing about that too, it's like it's not something like not everyone, you can't drop and meditate when you're anxious. You can, for breath
Yeah.
work, you can do box breathing and nobody would even know that you were doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Yeah.
moment of stress, you can immediately drop into it and calm yourself, calm the situation. Again, you're the half soda can, not the full one.
Yeah.
Move through your day, and then at the end of the day, sometimes if it is stressful, I will sort of tap in and tune into where in my body am I holding stress and try to send breath there to break it up. And I found that's really effective as well.
Nice. I hear that a lot in some people who practice breath work and meditation, and they say send, the breath to that part of your body that may be dealing with stress. And I've always wondered, how do I do that? Like, and I'm sure other people who are listening is like, well, how do you do that? I mean, that's just one of my thoughts. And I'm just like, well, how do I do that? I'm feeling stress in my neck, and I feel it there a lot, and in my shoulders. How do I send that breath there to help relieve or alleviate that stress that I'm holding?
Yeah. So what you want to do is you kind of take in a deep breath and you blow it like you're almost like you're going to fog a mirror with your lips closed. So it's very audible. And then as you do that, you visualize that breath kind of clearing the stress from that area. And as you do that again, as you practice it more and more often, it'll be very natural. It's not like in my mind's now I have to say, oh, clear it out in my neck. I feel stress and I immediately feel breath going in, breaking it up.
Nice. Okay. Thank you for clearing that up for me, because
Yeah, of
I
course.
would hear that a lot, especially when I'm not, and I always talk about like meditation and stuff. And as much as I want to really get into it, I feel like it's going to take a minute because it makes me tired and I get sleepy. But I do feel like the breath work, that's something that I can try. I did learn a breathing technique some time ago to practice before I go to sleep. And what I've noticed is that actually helps me rest and I fall asleep faster. And so it came back to me as you were talking. And I said, you know what? I remember practicing that because I deal with insomnia really, really bad.
No. What
And
technique
so
do you use?
I lay in the bed, and then I just breathe and I hold it,
Mhm.
and then I breathe out. And I do that just repeatedly for a little bit. And then eventually I'm calmer and I'm going to sleep. And one of my previous direct reports when I was working in corporate America, she taught me a deep belly breathing exercise. And when I first saw it, when she first taught it to me, I was like, well, what are the people going to say if I'm holding onto my belly? And so she had to, remind me like you can do it and no one will know.
No one will know.
And she also taught me, you can do it at nighttime while you're laying in the bed as well. And I did practice it for a little bit, and it does work. And, but I guess for me, I was like, I never really tied the two together. So like the conversation we're having today about menopause and, of course, mental health and how this all ties in and works together. I never really tied it into that and how it could be helpful for women in midlife. But as you're talking, I can really see that, it can be helpful because we're dealing with a lot. We are navigating a ton of emotions. And for many of us, we're trying to also still figure out, how do I get through this? Because we're not getting much help from the doctors. A lot of women are not. And so what are the tools that we can have in our toolbox to help us when we are high stressed and like with me dealing with insomnia. That is something, it is terrible. My insomnia is terrible. So,
Have you
so
tried
yeah,
legs up
thank
the
you.
wall?
Yeah, did you say lights up the
Have
wall?
you tried legs up the wall where you put your legs kind of up a
I
wall?
have not.
So that's
I
a
have not.
really great trick for insomnia as well.
Okay. And so do you put the legs against the wall and you just breathe or?
Exactly. It's a great time to do some belly breathing. And, I would stay there as long as you can. It just helps break the blood flow. And then it really, again, everything's about relaxing the body.
Yeah.
Most every ailment and symptom and fun things that come along with perimenopause,
Yeah.
a lot of it can be alleviated greatly if we can drastically reduce stress in the body. Because a
I
lot of people
like
will be like,
that.
well, I'm not stressed. I'm like, well, maybe you're not stressed, but your body's stressed because it's going through all these changes.
Yeah, you are so right. And we hold on to stress in so many areas that we're not even aware of, even in our face. And I didn't realize that until some time ago, how much stress we even hold on here in our face and in our necks and stuff, but especially in our face. And so you're right. We're not always aware because we're not feeling it, or we're not like, I don't feel the tension, and we're looking for those signs, but we don't know, like you might be experiencing it somewhere else. You just may not be aware because,
Well,
yeah.
when I was working, I remember telling people, I'm like, but I'm not stressed. And I went for a massage and the guy did one little, and I was like, so
Yes, I love it. Okay. Okay. I like that. I do like that. And that is something that I'm going to keep again, as a reminder for myself to practice those tools and to incorporate it daily. I'm a very big proponent of spend an hour a day doing something for yourself. And I think that that is something that I'm planning on adding at the end of my workouts during my stretches when I'm stretching and I'm laying on the mat. That's something that I think I'm going to practice, is just making sure that I'm breathing,
or before you eat.
and or before I eat. I'm going to make sure that I do that as well. So breathing is powerful.
It.
I don't think
If we
we,
have to do it anyway, we might as well do it with
yeah,
intention and in a way to serve our body.
yeah, I like that. To do it with intention. Let me ask you this. Are there any misconceptions that you may want to clear up about breath work that you've heard about before?
I mean, I think the biggest things is people think it has to be big and long and you have to do all these different crazy ones. Like it really can be as simple as inhale, hold, exhale, or just inhale and exhale slowly. Like I don't think it has to be complicated just because there are so many different complicated ways to do breath work. So I think that's one of the big misconceptions. Like, oh, I'm not going to do it. It's going to, it's going to take too long, or I don't want to learn this thing. Like it really can just be quick. And once you start to feel the benefit of it, then you can feel free to experiment with different techniques. Like there's amazing breath work, even for allergies and, for all sorts of ailments you might be feeling, even to cool yourself if you're getting night sweats. Like there's a lot of different things you can do with breath. But I would say be curious and approach it in that way. Like, oh, I want to try breath work for whatever it might be. Or, I want to take a class and just sort of learn. But I think the biggest misconception is you have to do it for like 20 minutes or 30 minutes or, to feel the benefit. But honestly, you do it a minute or 2 minutes even a day, it's still going to help.
I promise you are dropping so much, so much knowledge that I am just like, okay, girl, you got to get on it because you are behind. And when you mentioned those night sweats, though, I get those often. And my first thing to do is to get up and run to the freezer. And
No.
so I never thought to practice breath work. And so I think that I'm going to give that a try next time I experience one, which I hope it's not today or tomorrow, but next time I experience one, I will definitely give that a try. And what you're also reminding me of, it's kind of like exercise. The more we exercise, the stronger we get.
Exactly.
That's what this makes me think about breath work. The more we practice it, it becomes just second nature to us. And as you mentioned earlier, we're breathing anyway. So why not do it with intention? So thank you. Thank you so much. You're dropping so many good gems today. So I appreciate it. In your experience, are there any big mistakes that you feel women make during midlife that they could course correct just in the work that you've been doing? And
I think
Things like that.
the biggest mistake is just thinking that this is what it is.
Yeah.
Like, it's really just accepting that, like, oh, this is my new normal. Like, no, you can be vibrant, you can be energetic, you can feel, look, amazing. And so I really think that's the biggest mistake. Not approaching it with some curiosity of like, what are things I can do? Sometimes women will try one thing, it didn't work. It's like, oh, I tried yoga, it didn't work for me, so no natural modality works for me.
Yeah.
And really having more of a curious and really like have fun, like try all kinds of different things. We just launched Feng Shui on our site, a course by the Sacred Space Interior Designer. And it was around how you can arrange your space to energetically lift you up, as well as like clear the mind and all the things that we were talking about. Because again, all our classes are tailored to women in midlife. And I watched it. I was like, all right, I'm going to do my bedroom. And I feel a little uplifted. And so I'm like, oh, well, there's just another tool in the toolbox, right? To help. And so I would say just approach it with curiosity. Like, you are meant to be vibrant and energetic. And if you're not feeling the way you need to, then just invest 10 to 15 minutes trying new things.
Yeah. What are some other things that you think women can try just beyond the breath work? Are there any other practices that you have found to be helpful for women in midlife?
I would say by two big ones. One would be you have to sleep.
Yeah.
If you're not sleeping, then figure out the root cause and try the different modalities to try to help you sleep, whether that's breath work, aromatherapy, yoga, like, got to get there. And the other is really movement. So I think it's not the kind of movement you did before where it's like HIIT classes and intense, because that can really cause a lot of adrenal fatigue.
Right.
But it's more about like strength building and, walking and that sort of thing. I really think that we need that. We need that to keep our testosterone up. We need it because, well, our metabolism tends to slow down. So this helps speed it back up.
Yeah.
I think those and mindful eating, right? Like that we're eating nutritious meals. So it's really not so different advice to anyone of any age. It's just that we need to support our bodies more. So we need to focus on it more.
Yeah. So just those reminders that we hear all of the time. It's just now we really have to do it and really be intentional about putting those steps in place. I know that there are some foods that trigger hot flashes. And I'm someone, I love spicy food, but I know it triggers hot flashes. And so I have to like remind myself, like, you can't have too much of this. You have to like cut back on it. And so, and that's hard for me. I will be honest, because I really love spicy food. And of course there are other things as well, but just those gentle reminders to do the things that you need to do to care for yourself. Like, we need sleep. I know for me, I don't function well without it. And I'm often, even in my show, I'm, drinking mushroom coffee for the lion's mane.
Cheers.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, cheers. Yeah, I love lion's mane. It really helps me to stay focused and sharp, and it also has some other health benefits as well. And so I've been trying to get everybody on the mushroom coffee train or the mushroom chai
me too
train because
some hot chocolate, I love it. Yeah, and
I got that too. Yes,
you got to have your protein up.
Gotta have your protein up. And so I think that we just need those reminders. Sometimes we know what to do, we just don't do it. We don't do it because we're so busy, or we tell ourselves, well, tomorrow. I'm guilty of that. Well, tomorrow.
One thing in midlife is, I'd say prioritize yourself. I think, and I have 3 kids and a dog and all the things. And that was the biggest change that I think made the biggest difference. So I was like, no, me first.
Yeah. I like that. Prioritizing yourself. And that is important. And I know that is hard for a lot of women to do. And because we're always putting everybody else first. We put, family first, especially if you're a mom, you have children, you put the children first. But I always like to say, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Right.
So how can you fill yourself up every day? And that's where I get that 1 hour. And if you can't commit an hour, can you commit 15 minutes or 5 minutes, something just for you to refill your cup before you go off and help someone else?
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think you set a good example, right? Like, I want my kids to know that they should prioritize their physical and mental health.
Let's take a moment to talk about skincare that truly cares for your skin. Banish is a skincare brand known for creating clean, cruelty-free, and vegan products that help tackle acne scars, hyperpigmentation, and uneven skin texture. As we go through perimenopause and menopause, we often notice increased dryness and changes in our skin texture. That's why I love hydrating products like Banish's Brightening Vitamin C Moisturizer, which deeply nourishes and restores your skin's glow, and the Pumpkin Enzyme Mask, a gentle exfoliating treatment that leaves your skin feeling fresh, smooth, and radiant. Banish products are made without harmful chemicals, artificial fragrances, or dyes, so you can feel confident about what you're putting on your skin. Save $5 off any order by using my code LIFEAFTER40, that's LIFEAFTER40 at checkout. You can visit www.banish.com to start your journey to healthier, more radiant skin today. I would love to know more about Vibes Tribe. How does your work that you're doing here support women during midlife transitions?
Yeah, so Five Stripes is a membership-only site, and we have hundreds of classes on yoga, chair yoga, breathwork, Ayurvedic science, feng shui, self-love, journaling. So really any modality, aromatherapy, anything you want to try to explore to see if it's a tool you want to add to your toolbox. We also do a monthly live call. Dannon is always on the call, the breathwork expert I mentioned, because I think breathwork is such a big deal. So she'll always do like a little exercise along with the theme. And that event we actually open up to everyone. So if you go to our site and just go to free ticket or live event, anyone can join those monthly events, which is great. And then we also have a private Facebook group where women can kind of connect and share. And then we have someone who's a wellness expert moderate to be able to give advice. So really it's meant to be a community for women made by women all in midlife, because that doesn't exist. And it's not the same, right? Like you can't do the same things you did before, you know, like the body is different, the mind is different, and we deserve to have that information tailored to us. And so that's what it is. And then we also sell a lot of different affirmation products at cost, because the pink tax really makes me angry. So
yeah, me too.
We have a pink rebate. Everything's at cost. It's a women's only platform.
Nice. I love that. Is Vibe Tribes beyond just the free live events? Is it a subscription based?
It's a subscription
model. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So it's $4.95 a month, and you know, you get all the coaching and courses and live events and all of that.
I love it. And another question about Vibe Tribes, is it a house of like a library of tools where women can always have access to? Or, okay.
Yeah, so it's a library of tools, and every month we launch a new expert.
And I love what you are doing to help women navigate in midlife. We need these type of spaces. There are not many out there for us. And now, since I've been podcasting and talking about, you know, navigating life after 40 and beyond, I've been seeing a lot more women just really, you know, doing stuff for us. We need our own spaces and our own communities, because as you mentioned, what we did in our 20s and our 30s, we cannot do it in our 40s and in our 50s and beyond. We have to do things a little bit differently because our bodies are changing, our emotions are changing. And we also really need to take the time to care for ourselves. I mean, you should be caring for yourself if you are 20 or 30, but as we get older, we know that self-care has to look a lot different now. Yeah. So no more of the eating the pizzas, because we're not 20. We can't have the whole pizza and not gain a pound. So now we have to like, you know, kind of limit that. All right. Are there any success stories that you can share with us about the work that you've been doing with Vibe Tribes?
Yeah. I mean, part of what makes it so fulfilling is we have, you know, hundreds of stories of where women have come in and they were super anxious and depressed, because depression is another thing that people aren't really talking about in midlife that happens. And through the use of, you know, breath work and yoga, especially, you know, they're like, wow, we finally feel calm. Like we finally have some calm in our mind. And that to me has been part of probably one of the most fulfilling parts is, you know, and we even had one member say like, I finally slept. I haven't slept in years. And I was like, oh my God, like that's that's amazing, So we have 6,000 members as, on our platform, and we've had so many amazing stories. And it just really, I love being able to give women tools to put in their toolbox, because I do think that we need those, and at different times in your life and different times in your day, in different phases, right? Sometimes things might work and you might get bored. And part of it's like, I didn't want it to be a chore. I want it to be joyful, right? So how do we make it fun? And I think women love to learn new things, that, especially when it relates exactly to them. So that's what we really tried to do. We've tried to do it where it's fun. There's little treasure hunts. So sometimes you'll be taking a class and I'll be like, here's a free gift. We do that with our live events as well. So the goal is really to just make it really fun. And the good news is I think that we've really accomplished that based on what members have said.
Love that. I love that. And I will also put that down in the show notes as well, with the link for people to sign up and also check out what you are offering for women, and just so that they can have something a little bit different in their toolbox. And I'm really hoping that even those who are listening to this episode, that they're like, you know what, it piques their curiosity and they say, just like me, I never thought to just incorporate this into my day-to-day, and that it will be something that could help me, as I'm going through these changes in my body, and that it will be effective. And so, thank you for the work that you're doing. I know I've said it before, but thank you for the work that you're doing for women. For those women who are listening and who are still feeling overwhelmed, because we deal with that a lot, what is one simple step that they can take right now to prioritize themselves?
Simple step would be sign up for Vibes Tribe.
There you go. Sign up for Vibes Tribe. And I will put a link in the show notes so you can sign up. I love that.
A shameless plug. Really, it's try any of the breathing techniques. The point is just be curious, start trying things. And if one thing doesn't work for you, then try the next. But you really have to kind of commit, give it a week, and start to really tune into your body.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. Join Vibes Tribes, guys. I will put a link again in the show notes so that you can click on that. I have enjoyed this conversation today. It has been, amazing, educational, empowering. You've provided so many tips and so many reminders for me to practice even those tools that I know to use, but I only pull them out when something is on fire and I'm like, it's a 911 emergency. Now I have to do this box breathing. So now it's a reminder for me every day to practice this before I eat. And then also at the end of my workouts when I'm laying on the mat and I'm stretching. And so I really appreciate what you've shared here today. If you could leave the listeners with one key takeaway about breathwork and self-care, what would that be? One key takeaway.
Breathe with intention.
Breathe with intention. I love it. All right, everyone. That is it for this episode of Navigating Life After 40. I hope that you enjoyed this conversation just as much as I did. I cannot wait to hear your thoughts about it and your comments. And I would love for you to keep me posted on how this breath work is working for you. I will also post Kavita's information in the show notes so that you can click on the link and join Vibes Tribes. Check it out. Attend one of the live free classes if you're curious before signing up, so that we can work on ourselves and get this together, because we need to breathe with intention. And so thank you again, Kavita, for being here with us. And that is it, you guys. I will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. That's a wrap for this episode of Navigating Life After 40. I hope you enjoyed this conversation just as much as I did. If you love what you're hearing, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you're feeling generous, leave me a review on your favorite podcast platform. This helps me to reach more amazing women like yourself who are trying to navigate this amazing life. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, keep living your best life.